Hey exterior cleaning business owners, my name is Jonathan Henderson with Pressure Washing Marketing Pros. In today's video, I'm going to show you the difference between Google ads versus local service ads for exterior cleaning businesses. Whether you do window cleaning, gutter cleaning, pressure washing, soft washing, and roof cleaning, the whole nine, I'm going to go ahead and show you the difference between Google ads versus local service ads and the budget, how much you should spend, depending on should you use Google Ads, should you use both, should you only use one. This video is going to comprehensively go over each of these services and how you can best implement this in your exterior cleaning business. And why this matters is because local service ads and Google ads show up prominently and at the very top of any Google search for exterior cleaning services, whether that's gutter cleaning, pressure washing, soft washing, roof cleaning, deck cleaning, driveway cleaning. As you'll see right now, at the very top of an exterior cleaning search, which I typed in pressure washing Tampa, you'll see that the local service ads show up at the very top. Underneath them are the Google ads. And underneath the Google ads are going to be the local map pack and then the organic listings with websites. And so as you see how the results page is structured, you'll see that the ads show up prominently on Google at the very top. And why this matters is because homeowners search Google first. Paid results dominate the top of the page, and if you're not there, your competitors are, and they're stealing away leads from you consistently. And the customer journey, the first thing that they're going to go ahead and do is check the local service ads. Then they're going to call the top rated and most visible business. They're going to scroll to the ads if they're not convinced. They're going to compare 2 or 3 options. They may even go the organic route, but the customer journey for people that are looking and that, go ahead and convert on paid results is a little bit different than organic results. On paid results, customers really want that convenience and they're looking for a fast service. So they're not looking to go ahead and be booked out 2 weeks and get the service. They're usually convenient, focused, and they're looking, to get the job done as quick as possible. And so that is the normal customer journey that you're going to see with local service ads and even Google ads. They're going to check the local service ads. They're going to call the top rated and most visible business. They're going to scroll to the ads if they're not convinced. They're going to compare 2 to 3 options, and they're going to book a job with a company that they like best, usually going to be responsive, which we'll talk about. And so how do local service ads work for you guys that don't know what local service ads? Well, local service ads are pay per lead, not pay per click, and I will get into this in a minute. Also, they have a Google guaranteed badge, which builds trust. And you target, the targeting for local service ads is based on the category that you choose, which we'll also talk about in a minute. And they utilize your Google business profile. So however many reviews, whatever photos you have on your Google business profile, that is what local service ads is going to end up showing. So as you guys already know, by listening to this, with local service ads, since they're pay per lead, they can be very effective for you in trust building, which is why any exterior cleaning business wants to add it to the repertoire. Now, what is the Google Guaranteed? Well, Google Guaranteed shows a green badge. And so as you guys can see right here, Google Guaranteed, it's a green badge with a check mark. And Google backs up the service up to $2,000. So that means if I'm a customer and I am actually, investing into a business, or I am booking a service with a business that has local service ads, that means that if anything goes wrong, I can get up to $2,000 back. And so what does that do? It builds customer trust. But with local service ads, it also requires, you to upload your license, your insurance, and even a background check. And so how to set up the local service ads? Well, first you want to get verified. You want to have a verified Google business profile. The next thing you want to do is you want to apply for local service ads on their websites. You want to select the category, which is going to be window cleaning for 99% of exterior cleaning businesses that provide that service. As I said, window cleaning, we have plenty of videos, guys, that shows you how to set up local service ads. That is in the description, and you will be able to find it in the description of this video of how to set these local service ads up comprehensively. But once you select the category, which is going to be window cleaning, you're going to set your service area and how much you want to budget. Local service ads, you're going to budget per week. So you're going to set a budget. They're going to give you an option of how much you want to budget per week. And what I usually tell our clients is that you want to set it to at least $1,000 to $2,000 a week. And you're like, wait, Jonathan, what? Most of the time, as you guys will find out throughout this video, is that you're not going to spend $2,000 a week when it comes to local service ads. It's just something that's going to make you more competitive in your bidding, which we'll talk about in a minute. And so you're going to upload your license and your insurance as soon as you set up your service area and your budget. You're going to go ahead and take and pass the background check. And then guess what? You're going to collect more reviews and manage your local service ads so that they show up prominently, which we'll talk about the ranking factors here. So how do Google Ads work? Well, you pay per click. So unlike local service ads, you're going to pay per click when it comes to Google Ads. And so that means that even if you get 8 clicks, right, you may not get a lead and you still have to pay for that. So even if you don't get a lead, but you get clicks, you're still going to have to pay for that. It also uses keywords and location targeting, so you have more control. You have full control of your message and targeting. Unlike with local service ads that utilizes your Google business profile, there's not much control that you have at all with the local service ads on what you're targeting, because it targets based off of a category. And I'll expound upon that here in a minute. And then also, guys, you'll send your traffic either to a website or a landing page. With local service ads, you're going to go ahead and send that to your Google business profile. So those are the difference. With Google Ads, you pay per click, you use keywords and location targeting that you have full control over. So you have full control over what keywords you show up, and you also have full control over where you send that traffic to as well, which I suggest you send it to a landing page. Now, if you want to know how to optimize your Google Ads as best as possible, I'll also link a video to show you a very comprehensive guide on how to optimize and set up your Google Ads as well. And so how do you set up the Google Ads? You create a Google Ads account. You choose a campaign type, which is going to be a search campaign. No other kind of campaign. As I said, guys, in the video in the description, you will find the full video. It's about 45 minutes that shows you the complete steps on how to set up Google Ads. And then so another thing that you'll do is you'll create a campaign, and that's going to be your ads, your ad groups, and your keywords. You're going to set the targeting, radius, and zip codes. Those are the 2 options that you're going to have, and even cities. You're going to set your budget. Then you're going to connect your website or your landing page and set up your call tracking so that you can go ahead and have proper tracking and attributions for your Google Ads. Because if you don't have proper tracking for Google Ads, you're not going to get the best results. And after you do all of that, you'll go ahead and manage it. And so let's just look at the head-to-head comparison, guys. The cost model, for example, for both. With local service ads, it's pay per lead. With Google Ads, it's going to be pay per click. Where is the placement at? The placement for local service ads is at the very top of the page. The placement for Google Ads is going to be right below the local service ads, right? And then the control. How much control do you have when it comes to your targeting and the whole ad platform? For the control that you have for local service ads, it's very low, because it's only really going based off of your Google business profile, how much you bid, and what category you choose. Once you choose a category, you can't go ahead and choose which keywords you're showing up for. You're going to just show up for every kind of search that's going to be in that category. And so for local service ads, there's window cleaning, gutter cleaning, roof cleaning, pressure washing. And so those are the main categories in that, under window cleaning. And then for Google Ads, you're going to go ahead and have high control. And so you can control the type of keywords, the copy, and where you're sending that traffic as well. You can also have control over what keywords you're not going to show up for too. And so when it comes to the trust factors for for local service ads, you're going to have the Google guaranteed. So a lot of people will convert, or a lot of customers will convert on that, because they know that if something were to go wrong, they could potentially get money back from Google. And then for the trust when it comes to Google Ads, you have to create that trust. So you have to go ahead, and it's kind of like a funnel based off of your ad copy that you have, right? And then where you're sending the traffic, you may show your reviews and different things that are going to generate that trust. And so you have, you can customize the type of trust that you're going to go ahead and build when you have Google Ads, because you have more mechanisms at your control, unlike local service ads. And then when it comes to the management, so there's a lower skill level and expertise for local service ads when it comes to managing them. You just kind of set it and you run it, and you just try to go ahead and look to see if you have all documents in place and if you have all requirements. That's usually what we see, and what we do for our clients is that we'll go ahead and just make sure that the leads are funneling in. We'll make sure that they have nothing that's preventing or stopping them from running their local service ads. And you optimize the profile as best as possible, which you can just do by uploading photos consistently and getting more reviews. Those are really the things that you're going to do, which we'll talk about those optimization factors here soon. And so when it comes to the management for Google Ads and the expertise that you have, it's much higher. So since you have more customized control, there's going to be more things that you have to go ahead and watch for and set up. So Google Ads has a much tougher learning curve, and it's better that you have ongoing management because you want to manage these things at the very least on a weekly basis, but you should be looking at it on a daily basis because you can start spending a lot when it comes to Google Ads since it's pay per click, meaning that even if you don't get any leads, you still pay for the clicks. Unlike with local service ads, you only pay anytime somebody is a lead and a credible lead in your business. And what are the ranking factors for local service ads, as we were talking about? Where they're going to be the review quantity and rating. So as you can see right here in this picture, Prestige Cleaning out in Orlando, they have 896 5-star reviews. And so that review quantity ensures that, you show up prominently. Now with local service ads, they only show 2 ads, automatically whenever somebody's searching. So that means that you need to go ahead and have a high ad rank when it comes to local service ads because they're only going to show 2 businesses. That's why these ranking factors do matter. So the review quantity and rating, you want to make sure that you're always constantly and consistently getting new reviews. You need to be responsiveness to calls and messages. So with local service ads, what ends up happening, guys, is that Google on their end, they record every single call. And the reason why they record every single call is because guess what? You only pay per lead, as we discussed earlier. And so if it's not a true lead, then their system can go ahead and flag it and they'll offer you a credit. And so that is why it's important to go ahead and always answer the phone so that they can go ahead and verify if it was a lead or not. If you don't answer the phone, you're going to have a lower ad rank. So that is very important. Also, it's going to be proximity to searcher. And so with local service ads, unfortunately, if you're trying to run your local service ads 50 miles away from you, it's very difficult to go ahead and do so because they really are going to base it off of the proximity that you are to the searcher. And so if you have a physical address that's displayed on your Google business profile, if that customer is 50 miles away from you, but you're like, hey, I want to show my local service ads 50 miles away from me, it's going to be very difficult for you to rank. And even if you're a service area business, Google still knows where your main service area is at. So even if you try to manipulate it and you try to go ahead and expand your service area, it's still not going to work because when you verify your business, you still have to give Google an address, and that address that you put is usually going to be a location that is close to you, whether it's your home address, whatever it may be. So it's going to be proximity to searcher. So when it comes to targeting for local service ads, it's better for you to do it by zip code for the areas that you want to work in, and for the areas that are going to be about a 10 to 15 mile radius around you. And if you are in a non-competitive city, which we'll talk about in a minute, then at that point you can go ahead and spread that out a little bit more. And so having the Google Guaranteed badge is also going to help you as well in going through that, because if you don't have that Google Guaranteed badge, it's automatic that you're probably not going to show up in the top 2 because they only show businesses prominently that are Google Guaranteed. So unless nobody else in your area is not Google Guaranteed, which is highly unlikely, then you're going to, that's a ranking factor. You're not going to show prominently if you haven't gone through the steps of, getting your Google business profile verified, uploading your, business insurance, going through the background check, setting your service area, your bidding. You're not going to be Google Guaranteed. Then lastly, the budget and how much you bid is also going to be a ranking factor, which is why I say who's ever willing to spend the most is going to get the most clicks. And so for me, that's why I tell our clients, you want to start off with like $500 to $1,000 a week, because if there's 2 businesses and I'm Google, if one business only says, okay, I'm only willing to spend $150 per week, but this other business is willing to spend $1,000. That business that's only want to spend $150 a week, if they show them prominently, then they're going to get a lot of clicks, and if they get about 3 leads or whatever it may be, and they don't have as much of a wiggle room in Google's eyes to go ahead and keep showing them up prominently. But if you say $1,000, that gives you a lot of leeway to have your ad consistently show, because you're telling Google, hey Google, we're willing to spend. And of course, what does Google want to do? They want to spend your money. Therefore, they're going to prioritize businesses that have more of a threshold to spend over another business that has a lower threshold to spend. And so that's what you want to go ahead and do. To put this in exterior cleaning terms, you would much rather have a client or a customer who's going to do 4 to 5 services with you than a customer that's only going to do one service. And so look at it as if you set more of a budget per week. It's like a customer that's doing multiple services with you. If you only set your budget to, if you set it very low per week, that's like, in Google's eyes, that's like a customer that's only doing one service with you, whether it's just like, I'm looking for a driveway cleaning. And so that is why it's important to set your budgets at an appropriate level. Now, what are the ranking factors for Google Ads? Here's an example of Google Ads right here, and it's an auction system. So, your keywords and ad relevance. So you want to make sure that you're bidding for the right keywords, and that when people do click on the ad, or even, you want to make sure that your ad copy matches the keywords that you're targeting. And also when people do click on it, you have a good landing page that also matches, not only the ad copy that you're targeting, but that ad copy and landing page match that keyword. So in this example for pressure washing Tampa, I want to make sure that my ad copy says Tampa in it, and I want to make sure when they click on, the destination, whether it's a website or a landing page, that at that point it also mentions pressure washing in Tampa as well. And that's going to give you high ad relevance. It's going to also increase your landing page conversion. And then where you're sending that traffic to, you want to make sure that it's optimized for speed. If your ads, if wherever you're sending that destination to is very slow, then what's going to end up happening is that's not good behavior, right? That's not good customer behavior at that point, because what? Customers aren't going to want to go ahead and click on an ad, and it takes forever for it to go ahead and load. And so you want to make sure that you have phenomenal site speed for that customer behavior and customer conversion. Also, when it comes to budget and bidding strategy, when it comes to Google Ads, honestly, sometimes what can end up happening is that whoever bids the most will get that top position, because it's an auction. So if you have these two businesses, if this business that's showing up right now says, hey, I'm willing to spend $18, or let's just round it up, $20 per click. And then this business down here says, I'm only willing to spend $10 per click. Well, Google will look at your ad relevance or keywords, but your budget and bidding will play majority of that role, if not all of it in that sense. Because guess what? Google wants to take as much money as they can possible. So if you're like at an auction, why wouldn't I show the guys, number one, that are willing to pay the most for that click, opposed to the guys that are willing, not to pay as much for the click? So if this guy at the top is willing to pay $20 for a click, and this guy that's second place is only willing to spend $10, I'm always going to show the guy willing to spend twice as much at $20 significantly all the time. But that's why it's also important, guys, to make sure that all of these things are in place when it comes to your keywords, ad relevance, your landing page conversion, and your site speed. Because if those things aren't aligned, then you're not going to get the lead or the conversion, because you'll get the click, but if nothing's aligned, then guess what? They're not going to become a lead. And that's why Google Ads can really rack up, some cost. And that's why a lot of guys in exterior cleaning businesses are hesitant to run it, or they've been, spurned in the past by it, or burned in the past by Google Ads. And so ad extensions are basically what you're going to see right here, where it says like special offers and reviews, call buttons immediately, site links, as you see right here. Those are what ad extensions are. So the more ad extensions that you have, and the more ways and the more incentives that you give customers, the more that they're going to prominently show you. And your tracking accuracy. A lot of exterior cleaning businesses don't set up their Google Ads properly, where they have the proper tracking. So therefore, the wrong inputs get the wrong outputs. So you want to make sure that you're constantly tracking the type of leads that you're getting, and you're inputting that into Google so that they're outputting your ads to the best searcher type and intent. And so I see a lot of exterior cleaning businesses with inaccurate tracking, which is just going to mess up everything. Even if you're doing everything right, it's still going to mess up everything that you're doing. So you need to make sure that you have tracking accuracy as well. And so what are some budget scenarios? Because depending on where you're at in business is going to determine what you should invest in. And so what I tell businesses, if you have under $1,000 to spend per month, or a budget for, a paid endeavor on Google Ads, you should only run local service ads if your budget is under $1,000. Now, if you have a budget between $1,000 and $2,500, then you can consider running both. And so all of these scenarios that I'm going to go through, guys, I'm going to go each scenario, demographics, market size, all of that. And at the end, I'm going to show you guys realistic client examples that verify this information. And so if you have $2,500 plus to go ahead and spend, then you want to max out your local service ads and you want to scale your Google ads as high as you can possible if you have a $2,500 plus budget. So once again, guys, to recap, if you have under $1,000, local service ads only, and I will get to that in a minute in the next slide. $1,000 to $2,500, consider running both, and $2,500, you want to max out your local service ads and scale Google ads as well if you have $2,500 plus to spend each month. So these are monthly numbers, $1,000 a month, $1,000 and $2,500 a month, and $2,500 plus a month. And the market type fit. So this is the reason why I say the budget and then your demographic and your market matter. So in smaller cities that have below 500,000 people in the population, local service ads dominate because you simply don't get enough traffic with Google ads, because if you're running Google ads properly, there's going to be a lot of searches that you don't want to show up for. That's why you have more control. So at that point, what ends up happening is that it limits the amount of traffic that Google ads tends to get, while local service ads dominate in these smaller regions. And so even if your town only has, or your targeting area only has 100,000 people, run local service ads. And so many metros, populations that have 500K to 1 million people, they're both strong. Like local service ads and Google ads are both strong, which, as I told you guys, I will show you examples towards, in a minute, of real life client examples. And if you're in many metros, which is going to be 1 million plus people in population, you should always be running both. Like running both is a must because you want to maximize as much as you can possible in your market and in your area. So running both is essentially a must if you're in many metros with a population or a targeting area of over 1 million people. And so your team structure fit. If you're a solo operator, local service ads should be the only thing that you really run because it's simple and it's steady, right? It's simple and it's steady, and so you'll be able to go ahead and still get enough leads to keep you busy as one individual, which we'll talk about business goals here next. Now, if you're running a small crew, you want to balance both. During one season, one may be better. During another season, another may be better, depending on how you want to scale and what season of your business you're in. I know with smaller crews, there's times where you want to keep your guys busy, right? But there's also times where you'll be a little bit overworked sometimes. And so you want to go ahead and find that balance. And so with smaller crews, you can run both, but you want to find the balance. And if you're running multiple crews, it's almost mandatory that you need to be running both Google ads and local service ads. Now, what are your business goals? As I talked about, guys, if you're looking for just pure growth, you should be running local service ads and Google ads. If you want to fill schedule gaps, like, okay, you're like, hey, we're already really busy, but I want to fill in some gaps, you should run local service ads because you only pay per lead. With Google ads, that budget can run up a little bit, but with local service ads, you should be able to pay per lead, and it's going to fill in those gaps for you so that you can, you'll easily be able to manage how many leads you're bringing in because you're only paying per lead at that point. And so that's why it's a good way, to go ahead and just fill in those gaps. The reason why you want to run both when you're, if you're trying to grow, because with Google ads, as you guys know earlier, you have more control. So therefore you can control what keywords you're going to, and you can scale infinitely. With Google ads, I can go target areas that are 50 miles away, and that will be perfectly fine. I can go target 50 miles away when it comes to Google ads because it's based off of an auction system. It's not necessarily based off of locality. And so that's one thing that Google ads has over local service ads. And then you get consistent jobs. If you want like just consistent jobs, you may be a solo operator, you just want consistency, you can do local service ads because there's less management to it and it's just going to be steady. So it fills in schedule gaps and you have consistent jobs. But if you're really trying to grow, you always want to couple it with Google ads, or even if you just run Google ads individually and you're in a metro area that is 500,000 plus people, really get to go ahead and run. So how do owners kill their results when it comes to local service ads? Well, or even just, ads in general, Google ads and local service ads. Well, for local service ads specifically, they'll miss calls. And as I talked about earlier, is that when you miss calls, local service ads has no way to know if you had a credible lead or not. And so therefore, since they have to do that guesswork, they're probably not going to go ahead and always prominently rank you. We've had clients where their local service ads were killing it. Then they went through a 2 to 3, week period where they weren't answering the phones at all. And then they wonder why their local service ads are no longer producing results. And what I've seen 75% of the time, I say 50% of the time, because the other 40% of the time is they don't have a certain business requirement that they need. But 50% of the time, it's because they're not answering the phone consistently for local service ads. The other 40% of the time is going to be they're missing requirements. And then the 10% is just going to end up being that they're in a very competitive market and they need to get more reviews. They need to strengthen their profile. When it comes to Google ads, then it's going to be weak follow-up, which means wasted clicks. And so a lot of clients, they'll be like, man, I spent $2,000, and they just see how much they spent. And then they look at it, they got 40 leads, but they didn't have enough time to follow with the lead. So they just see, man, I wasted $2,000 and I broke even on this. And so with Google ads, a lot of homeowners will kill their results, or not homeowners, but a lot of business owners of exterior cleaning businesses will kill their results because they have a weak follow-up system. Which, how do you fix this? Answering service, you may have an AI call handling for you, or automations that you have in place. For example, if somebody were to fill out a contact form, there's an automation where, that person that fills out the contact form will get a text saying like, hey, are you available for a call? Or what service do you need? Do you need to speak to somebody immediately? And so you're more likely to go ahead and close that lead when you have that system in place. And so when you have weak follow-up with Google ads, those customers don't know you as much. Those customers don't know you as much. And so in the business description, I actually show you guys, or in the description of this video, I'll also link one of our videos that shows you how you can go ahead and close different type of leads, such as Google ads and local service ads. And so that's something that I see consistently, is that there's a weak follow-up sales system whenever guys are running ads and they're not producing the results that they want, which equals wasted clicks. And so with local service ads, you only pay every time you get a lead, so that's fine. With Google ads, it can be wasted clicks, regardless if it's a lead or not. And so when it comes to the spam and lead quality, local service ads usually has typically a little bit higher lead quality because of the Google guarantee, because homeowners know that they can get money back if something were to happen. And so also the targeting for local service ads is actually better, because a lot of guys in the exterior cleaning industry will try to run their Google ads on their own, and they'll target everything under the sun, and that leads to a lot of spam. And so you need to lower spam when you have Google ads with specific targeting, which is why it's always good to couple up with an agency if you're doing this on your own. I always tell guys that Google ads is not something that you need to play around with, because you can really rack up your budget in that sense, or how much you're spending if you're not targeting the proper things. An example would be pressure washer. A lot of people will just, not set up any targeting on a Google ad campaign, and they'll show up for searches such as pressure washer. And with pressure washer, what does that do? There's people that are looking for equipment, for parts, and you're showing up for that. And when you're showing up for that, what does that do? Right? It's a wasted click, because people are like, hey, do you sell pressure washing equipment? And you're like, no, dude, I don't sell pressure washing equipment. And guess what? At that point, that was just a wasted click that you had. For local service ads, you're only paying per lead. 1 to 5% of it's going to be sometimes a spam call. But since you're only paying per lead and they can filter it out, make sure that you're answering your phone. That's why owners tolerate local service ads spam more than they do with Google ads, because you will actually get reimbursed for that local service ads with credits if it's not a real lead. With Google ads, you're not going to get reimbursed. And so that's the unfortunate part, which is why you don't want to mess around when it comes to your Google ads. Now, seasonality strategy. When you're running Google ads and you're running local service ads are safer in slow months, because guess what? You pay per lead. Ads are stronger. Google ads are stronger in peak months, right, in your busy season, because you can always scale them further and put more money into them, build out more campaigns, and you control what you're going to be targeting specifically. Therefore, you can scale it. And, since your location and your Google business profile don't play a role don't play a role like local service ads do when it comes to how far you can target, guess what? You can scale those to even, go ahead and reach other counties, other areas that may be miles away from you. And so the smart owners that are running a strategy for local service ads, Google ads, or even both, they shift their budgets seasonally. And so make sure that you're always having that management and that that you're changing your strategy based off of the seasons. And so there's scaling limits as well when it comes to local service ads and Google ads. With local service ads, I rarely see anybody pass or scale past 3,000 to 3,500 in spend a month, no matter how large your area is, no matter how much your budget is. I just rarely see it scale past $300 to $3,500 a month. And we have clients doing this aggressively, which you guys will see here in a minute. And with Google ads, there's really no hard ceiling. The budget is kind of scalable, but of course, what I mean by that, guys, is that if you're in Orlando, you could target all of the state of Florida with your Google ads if you really wanted to. You can't really do that with local service ads because you're only going to really show where your locality is. But with Google ads, it doesn't matter where you're located at. You can run Google ads anywhere that you want, effectively making it no hard ceiling if you really didn't want it to. But if you're running it properly and you want to be as efficient as possible and you don't have the team for that, it's better just to run Google ads in your local area. But I'm saying that, though, there's a potential that you can just scale it as far and as much as you want when it comes to Google ads. Now, future-proofing your business. So this is very important. I wanted to add this in here, guys, is that with AI and the future of search happening in multi-channels, Google prioritizes paid results over organic when it comes to what they show, as I talked about earlier. But AI overviews are shrinking the amount of organic clicks that you're getting. So when you guys type in something, you'll probably see those AI overviews that show up at the very top over the paid listings or underneath the paid listings sometimes, right? Or even above it. But majority of the time, the local service ads and Google ads are even showing up before the AI overviews as well. And so with the ads showing at the very top, with the AI overview showing beneath the Google ads at that point, guess what? It's overall shrinking organic clicks. And so that is why you need to have that omnipresence everywhere effect, is that ultimately at some point you want to be running local service ads, Google ads and SEO if you meet all the requirements that I talked about earlier. So if you're in a population that only has 150,000 people, your strategy may be local service ads and SEO because Google ads aren't going to be as good in your area unless you want to kind of waste a little bit of money. And so that will be your everywhere effect. But if you're in a million plus, 750,000 plus population or more, yes, local service ads and SEO will definitely benefit you if you have the budget, the team, and the capacity to go ahead and do it. And so that's how you're going to future-proof yourself. And so let's look at some real comparisons and some client examples of looking at the comparison between local service ads and Google ads. So we'll do July 1st through the 31st of 2025 for these results, guys, because I find that I didn't want to do it in a super busy season. I want to do it, and I didn't want to do it in a super slow month, or I didn't want to do it in a super busy month like May, but I didn't want to do it in a super busy or a super slow month like August. And so July is like a perfect month. July can be a little bit slower, and so it's in between. And so we had a client here that spent a lot of money. As you guys can see, almost spent $4,000 between local service ads and Google ads. But you can see on his local service ads, he got 353 clicks. But remember, you don't pay per click. So therefore, he got 353 clicks, and they got 41 leads, and they paid $70 per lead. And so essentially their local service ads got 3 times as many clicks as their Google ads did, showing that the local service ads actually drive up more demand, as I always say. But with the Google ads, since we had control and we could target it for this client, even for the Google ads, they ended up spending $2,101.74. they got 122 clicks, but they still got 32 leads, and they paid $65.68 a lead. And mind you, this is a large metro market here in Florida. There's a ton of competition, which is why they're able to spend so much. But in this example that I'm showing you guys, it's showing you that yes, local service ads got 3 times as many clicks, but since you're only paying per lead, the client only ended up spending $700 more, with 3 times more clicks than the Google ads did, right? And the cost per lead was a little bit higher, but since we could control it in an expert manner, we actually are below the industry standard, because local service ads usually are the industry standard for what leads are going to cost on Google in your area if you're paying. And so we were underneath that as well at $65.68 for this particular area. Now let's go to another client example. In this client example, the results are kind of similar and the spend is almost somewhat similar, but this is typically the type of results that we see. And this is a large metro area as well that's running local service ads and Google ads. And so for the total cost, it was $2,252 for local service ads. That ad got clicked 555 times, but they got 58 leads and their cost per lead was $38.82. And so this is very cost effective. 58 leads for $2,252 at $39 a pop. That was really good. And so with Google ads, we ended up spending $2,644.75. We got 300 clicks and they got 50 leads at $53 a lead essentially. And so those numbers kind of compare. You might say, Jonathan, why did the Google ads spend a little bit more? Well, in this area, it's a little bit more competitive for the Google ads. Therefore, we have to bid, for the clicks a little bit more. But that's why it's always important that you have all the conversion mechanisms in place. Because if you get lower clicks, as you guys always see, Google ads, you get a significantly lower amount of clicks. But as I told you, if you're not converting those leads, this cost per lead can go ahead and drive up. Fortunately, in this case, we were getting a lot of clicks, and guess what? We were still getting a good amount of leads in that sense, right? And so we were still converting for our client at about a 16% conversion rate in that sense. And so if I look at it, right, the cost per lead is about $53. And so that was something that was really good. And that was something that, as you can compare, client likes to run both for real growth. Now, if I look at this client example right now as well, this will show you a different side of the story. So this client is in an area of targeting that's about 750,000 people up north. And so for his cost, his local service ads completely dominated over his Google ads in terms of volume, which is why I tell you guys sometimes to even run both. But local service ads, anybody can run them if you have that budget. So the local service ads got 539 clicks. They got 60 leads, and they were paying a whopping $30 per lead, essentially, on their local service ads. So 60 leads for $1,700, basically almost $1,800 in spend. And so I know you can definitely make your money back on that. And so even running the Google ads in that area, with that targeting, we still didn't get as much traffic with that. And so we spent $1,100. We got 119 clicks. We got 19 leads, and we basically spent $58 per lead. Once again, guys, since you control the targeting that you're doing with the Google ads, and there's people that really like to go ahead and push those bid limits, you're gonna inherently kind of spend more for a cost per lead with Google ads. You're gonna have more control, but as I talked about, that's why most exterior cleaning business owners are more comfortable with local service ads, because you only pay per lead. And so as you can see right here, this client got 19 leads. Some people can break even on spending $1,100 because they only close like 5 leads at $250. There's clients that we've had out there like that, right? But it just shows you the stark difference between some areas, how they operate. And so that's why I always say that, always be testing, but every market has different things, which is why I told you guys all of those different market factors. Now, this is an area that we actually did the Google ads, and this was an area where the targeting is underneath 500,000 people. And to be particular, it's about 480,000, but this is a very good client of ours, so we didn't mind running it because they do the whole 9 with us with SEO and all of that. But if I look right here, their local service ads did significantly better than their Google ads. And that's why I say when you're in a smaller metropolitan area that's underneath 500,000 people in population, the local service ads are going to significantly produce better leads, and you're not going to really be missing out on anything when it comes to the Google ads if they're fully optimized. And this shows an example. So with local service ads, they spent $792. They got 186 clicks, which is 4 times more clicks than they got with the Google ads, right? And the leads they got were 15, and they were spending about $53 per lead. And so that was pretty decent results that we saw. It's even competitive in this mid metro or this small metro area of under 500,000 people. But with the Google ads, we spent $403. They got 43 clicks on it. They got 6 leads, right? They got 6 leads and they spent $67.31 per lead. But if like with 6 leads, if you close half those jobs or even 2 jobs, you might be able to just break even with their money. And so that's why I try to have a lot of guys avoid this situation with Google ads if they're in an area that's underneath 500,000 people in population targeting for exterior cleaning services, to where I say it may not be the best advantage. You might find more bang for your buck with the local service ads. And the summary conclusion, guys, essentially, if the main takeaways that you want to have when it comes to Google ads and local service ads is local service ads is the trust, it's cheaper cost per lead, and there's a cap scalability though, right? But you're going to get that consistent work. You're going to get, it's going to sometimes have a higher lead volume than Google ads can have. With Google ads, you're going to have more control. It's scalable because it's not going to just be based off your locale. If you want to target Google ads 50 miles away, if you want to target Google ads in another state, you can do it. There's typically a higher CPL because of the bidding. And so what is the best? It's to run both. Ultimately, what's the best? To run both, by balancing by how much you have to budget, what's your population, right? What's your team structure look like, and what are your goals? That's how you choose what you're going to go ahead and choose, whether it's the local service ads or it's the Google ads. And so if you need help with determining this and you're like, hey, Jonathan, I watched this video, but I still need help. I still want to know what my online presence is, and I want you to be able to go ahead and dissect my market and tell me what are the next steps I need to do in order to maximize, my online presence on Google and other platforms. Guess what? Go to go.pwmarketingpros.com, schedule, right? So you want to go ahead and go to go.pwmarketingpros.com/schedule, and we will be able to help you determine that, run an audit for your business and really talk about your market fit and even things outside of Google ads and local service ads in your market and what you should do to maximize your lead flow in your area, whether you're in a population that has 40,000 people or you're in a population that has 1 million plus people, whether you're doing, $150,000 a year or even 1 million plus a year. We work with businesses of all shapes and sizes. So if you need help with your exterior cleaning marketing, on the digital side of things, go ahead and make sure to visit this URL, schedule a free strategy call with us. And we'll, we call it our lead flow acceleration session. And we'll be able to go ahead and dissect your market, look at your online presence, give you guidance on what you should go ahead and do, and give you a marketing plan, that you can set for your particular market in your area. So thank you so much, guys, for watching the video, and I will see you in the next one.